everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host. I'm here with my sidekick Beatrice and Jack, but Jack's in the upper bunk sleeping. You can see him right there. So we're here in Center, Colorado, getting a load of spuds, and I'm taking this load to Springfield, and then it's going to go the rest of its way to the Sunshine State with another driver. So I need to be in Springfield sometime, by Saturday morning, because I have ACE 2 class on Saturday morning. So first things first, parking's tough in the Denver area, but everybody kind of knows that, but it's nice to have friends. So I want to give a shout out to my good friend Lyle. He let me park in his driveway last night, and because his driveway's not quite long enough, my front axle was out in the street a little bit, but I always leave my parking lights on anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. And but I do wish he'd have told his wife and his neighbors, because I got a lot of dirty looks. But I got out of there pretty early this morning. Came down US 285 to get down here. So the road conditions were good. A couple of icy spots, but not bad at all, and it's a beautiful drive. I took a couple of videos. The first one's just along 285, and the river you see there is it's the North Fork of the South Platte River, and near Bailey, Colorado. But take a look at that, and then there's another video I shot just on the other side of Kenosha Pass and of South Park. So I'm just going to pan across here. This is what is called South Park. Now just behind me is Kenosha Pass. This is on US 285. So Kenosha Pass is right at about 10,000 feet. But this area, what you see through these trees, this area between like two mountain ranges that's really flat, it's called a park. And this is the South Park. And it just so happens I'm just kind of panning around here. We're in Park County, Colorado. And this is an area known for these parks. Probably the first white guy to come through here was Pike back in 1806, and then John C. Fremont crossed here in 1844. But this was a favorite hunting ground of Native Americans, and there have been, battles and wars out here, but it's just an interesting area, and it gets really flat as you get down towards Fairplay, Colorado. Okay, so today is November 1st. It's All Saints Day. In history, sad day. I mean, when I say sad, I mean sad for me personally. Like, this hurt me personally. On this day in 1999, Sweetness, Walter Payton, number 34 for the Chicago Bears, Hall of Famer, passed away of bile duct cancer. And I can tell you exactly where I was when I heard the news. It was my first year in law school, and I was actually just pulling into a parking garage near the law school, and that's when I heard the news, and I had to take a few minutes to get myself together. I just thought about a lot of stuff. And so anyway, 1999, on this day in 1938, Seabiscuit, that's right, Seabiscuit, you might have seen the movie, beats War Admiral by 4 lengths
It was a big deal then. I guess it still is. They made a movie about it, right? So, yeah, Seabiscuit beats War Admiral on this day in 1938. On this day in 1871, author Stephen Crane is born. Stephen Crane wrote a number of books, but one of his more famous was The Red Badge of Courage. Interestingly, though, if you know dates a little bit, you realize that he was born 6 years after the Civil War ended. He didn't write the book until 30 years after the war ended, and that book came out in 1895. But it's a classic. On this day in 1765, sorry, I'm gonna move this just a little because this guy's bouncing me around a little bit. This day in 1765, the Stamp Act goes into effect in the colonies, in the North American colonies. And it is the first of many acts that will tax the colonists. And, you know, one of the things that I've kind of, I guess, observed from studying history is that really the United States, or the people, you know, the European settlers of this country, basically were in a state of war, if you will, civil war, revolution, from 1765 until 1865. Because really, that whole 100-year period, that whole century from 1765 to 1865 was all about creating what we have today. There were a lot of things that were not, you know, settled in terms of the law or other ways, and you know, until at least 1865. The United States, or what started out as those 13 colonies, right? That geographic area expanded hugely over, you know, by 1865. So, I mean, if you look at the number of places that were U.S. states or territories in 1865, there weren't many more added after that. You know, I mean, other states became states, but, you know, like Colorado became a state in 1876, but there were European, you know, there were settlers out here of European descent well before that. And California had become a state in like 1845, I think. Maybe, yeah, that sounds about right. No, I take it back. Maybe 1850. But so, you know, we already had, you know, states kind of across the continent. And it was that, you know, idea of manifest destiny. But so that those 100 years were super, super important to everything that would come after it. Yeah, so that's today in history. I wanted to talk a little bit about, well, let me just mention, because yesterday I did a video on the DAB, and I wanted to mention something else. So, I don't know if this is like available off the app, but there is a Q&A section that's accessible through the Prime app on DAB. And so, you know, I read through, and sometimes people are just grousing about things and really just, you know, venting a little bit to the DAB. And you know, if you're on some board like that, you know, it just comes with the territory, right? But one thing, and I did a video about this a while ago, but one thing that came up was Walmart OTIF loads. And in particular, the questioner asked, well, how come when there's a window from say, 0001 to 0800 at a Walmart for a drop and hook, why can't I just show up at 2230? Like, why does it matter to Walmart? I'm taking a trailer so their trailer count doesn't increase. And then the first person who responded to it, I was a little bit shocked at the response, because the response wasn't, oh, well, that's what the customer wants, so that's kind of what we have to do. And Walmart, let's be candid, Walmart is the 800-pound gorilla in the transportation world. Like, with, Amazon is huge, and they have huge shipping things, but Amazon's footprint in like trucking is not the size of Walmart's. And what I mean by that is that Amazon has their contractors, but hundreds or thousands of for-hire carriers haul into Walmart distribution centers. Dozens and dozens of big trucking companies have dedicated stuff they do at Walmart, in addition to Walmart having their own trucking company, essentially, Walmart Transportation. So, they're a huge player. But here's the thing about Walmart, and I think you'll agree if you've ever delivered to a Walmart distribution center, regardless of whether it was a drop and hook or a live unload. Walmart distribution centers are like a finely tuned machine. You go to security at any one of their distribution centers, pretty much, they know exactly what they're doing. You're in, you're out, right? They get you a door. You don't spend a lot of time waiting around or, anything. Now, sometimes there are delays, but my experience has generally been, and of course, generally means less than always, my experience at Walmart has been very good. And I don't think I've met a driver who doesn't like to go to Walmart, because it's very, very predictable. And the response, though, was, yeah, everybody's tried, all these trucking companies have talked to Walmart, and Walmart just does this because they make a lot of money on the fines for people showing up early. And, they're like, oh, you could show up, why is it on a drop and hook you can't show up a minute early, but on a live unload you could show up to an hour early, blah, 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 right? And I'm like, and it was really kind of like bashing on Walmart. And I was like, why would a person who's on the DAB publish something, right? Put it out, for at least wide consumption, maybe not public consumption, but why would they say that about a customer that big? And I got nothing. But it really kind of shocked me that a member of DAB doesn't have enough discretion to say, hey, Walmart is a huge customer. They operate, because here's the thing, right? I went to a shipper recently, and I was there for 10 hours. Why? Because they don't have enough staff. But Walmart staffs based on when loads are coming in. So it matters to them when you get there. And, here's the thing. Walmart's not the only customer that says, here's your window. Maybe you could show up early at other places and they just tell you to park and they call you in 4 hours. But Walmart is like, hey, we want this much traffic per hour. We want this many outside trucks moving across our property per hour, per day, and this is how we do it. And I don't know why it's so damn hard to understand, right? A window is a window. And the fact that you can't show up early, Well, that just proves that Walmart takes their windows seriously. I mean, come on, you got an 8-hour block, right? Like Ray Charles could get that truck there within that 8 hours. So the fact that you can't get there when you want, I mean, that's just trip planning, right? That's just trucking, you know? So anyway, I just think that, you know, it's one thing to say, oh, I got a problem with how my company does something, right? I got a problem with how the company I contract with does something. That's one thing. But to like kind of badmouth a customer about how they run their business, I don't think that's cool. So that's just my, you know, I just share that with you. You know, and you know, I guess what I would say to any driver is if you got a real heartburn with how Walmart runs their show, because they run a tight ship, then reject loads going to Walmart. I mean, this load that I'm getting loaded on right now, it's going to a Walmart. I'm not going to end up going there, but I talked to another driver yesterday, and hopefully he's going to hook this when I get to Springfield, and he'll get to go to Walmart. But anyway, that's that. Some other interesting stuff going on. You know, there's still there's an auto carrier, and I can't remember the full name. It's like Cooper is the last name. It's like Bill Cooper or something. But apparently they're a huge auto transporter, and they're looking to like basically buy all of Yellow's assets and try to put their drivers back to work. The sticking point on that though is the loan that Yellow got from the U.S. Treasury that's due in, I believe, March or February. The full payment is due in March or February. The company that wants to acquire Yellow is asking for a 2-year extension. The problem with that loan, I think, is, I mean, and I already mentioned this, Yellow wasn't entitled to that loan. They kind of like scammed the government when they got the loan. But here's the other thing, like Bernie Sanders and everybody, and a couple other senators are working on getting this deal done. Okay, I'm back. So they had finished loading me, and then I spent like eternity on the phone with dispatch, setting up some stuff. The dispatch person said, oh, this is where you live, right? Or they just were talking to themselves, and I'm like, why are you saying that? And they're like, that's where you live, right? I'm like, no, I haven't lived there for a long time. And I got out my license because I had a Pennsylvania CDL. I got out my Maryland CDL 2 years and 2 days ago. So October 30th, 2021, I got my Maryland CDL. And, you know, we moved back to Maryland. Well, I sent a copy of that to HR immediately. And this has come up repeatedly. And, you know, it's like, she's like, well, I changed that if I could. And I'm like, well, you know, it was somebody else's job already to change it. But it's like, you know, it's like the Social Security numbers, you know, being like accessed by a fleet manager. It's just troubling that internally, like their computer systems don't talk to each other. And I know I'm getting off track here. I'll just stop. But anyway, so getting back to what I was saying about Yellow. So the company, I looked it up, is Jack Cooper, and they are a huge auto hauler. Their biggest customers are GM, Ford, and some insect company called Stellantis. I mean, I think that's an insect. I don't know what they haul for the insect company, but yeah, mostly they haul cars. Where the hell did that name come from? Like, Walter Chrysler must be turning over in his grave. The Dodge brothers must be turning over in their graves. Anyway, So speaking of the auto industry, you know, I've never been a member of a union, but I'm pro-union because I think that a lot of people in this country, especially blue-collar workers, would be way better off if unions were as strong as they were, say, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 60 years ago. And, you know, I've talked about this in the past, right? Like, my dad was a union guy. And, you know, I went in the military, and my dad was always, like, pro-union, and he was, like, a shop steward and, you know, union rep and stuff. He took classes at Cornell in their labor, because they have a huge labor relations school. And, but I was always, like, kind of skeptical. And he's like, hey, you know, the military has to raise pay because of unions, right? And I never really saw the connection, and I'm not sure I necessarily buy that argument even today. But you know, basically the strikes against the three major automakers have been settled, and the guy that runs the UAW has basically grabbed everybody by the scrotum and squeezed, or in the case of GM, by the ovaries and squeezed. And, you know, he has gotten some historic deals done. And, you know, I think if you look back, like, there has been a lot of organized labor action of late. Kaiser Permanente had a huge threat of a strike. There are other strikes going on. And the interesting thing about the UAW strike is, once the terms were announced, Toyota, who has an all non-union blue-collar and craft people, they announced pay raises for their folks. Why? Because they don't want to pay so much less than what GM, Ford, and Stellantis auto workers are going to be getting. So it's, you know, it's just interesting. And speaking of which, speaking of unions again, kind of circling back to the Jack Cooper thing, the Teamsters Union, who represented all those 30,000 drivers at Yellow, they are supporting the Jack Cooper proposal to step in and rescue Yellow. So hopefully that happens. Those guys get their jobs back. The other companies like Old Dominion and Estes that wanted to buy the company, I mean, Old Dominion is a solid company. Estes, it's kind of funny, right? Like, somebody badmouthed, they said they worked for Estes and they badmouthed Prime the other day, and I was just like, I don't know where you work, but like, what I saw being a jockey and a dock worker there, especially after they didn't keep promises to me, I was like, I do not want to drive for this company. You know, so I don't know, you know, and I think people think that money is the only thing that should matter. Like, you judge a job based solely on money, and I'm like, if you do that, you're always going to get shortchanged. You're always going to get shortchanged. So many people, and I'll say this with regard to unions, right? So many people, you know, say, oh, I don't want to work for a union. They take your money, you get nothing. And I did a video quite a while ago where I talked with a guy at length out in Arizona who was a retired LTL company guy, and he was like, yeah, I was in a union the whole time, and I have an incredible pension, I have medical benefits, you know, it was worth it. And you know, that's the thing that you know, he said to me, he's like, a lot of these young guys, they would rather have, you know, $2 an hour more or $3 an hour more, which is, you know, $3 an hour is $6,000 a year. They'd rather have that than have good health care for the rest of their life. or good health care at all. So anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox on that, but I do think it's interesting what's happened in the railroads, in the auto industry, and what's going on in the trucking industry. So anyway, I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.